So this might age poorly, because by the time you see this clip, the supposed time where this was supposed to happen might have already passed without it happening. In fact, I would say that's more likely than the alternative of it actually happening, because nothing ever happens to Israel, we all know that. Nothing ever happens in general, but nothing ever happens to Israel especially. However, Qatar is, it's a Gulf monarchy with a lot of leverage economically from its oil industry, and it's spent like the last 20 to 30 years creating like its own little lobbying apparatus, which is nowhere near the strength and the influence of the Zionist lobby, but it does at least have it. That's how it got the 2022 World Cup, from decades of lobbying and like influence peddling and stuff. Now, the attack by Israel on Qatar a few weeks ago seems to have made Qatar like start thinking about using its lobbying power against Israel internationally in a way that I don't think the Israelis are used to having anyone do against them. The Israelis may have met their match here. Well, not exactly their match, but like they may have bit off more than they can chew by like getting on the bad side of a country that can do a similar sort of thing to what they do in terms of lobbying. There have been a bunch of reports in the last week or so about Qatar supposedly pushing to have Israel expelled from UEFA. Now, I'm not exactly sure how Qatar can do this. They must be like a sponsor of UEFA or something, because, that's the European Football Association. What the fuck does Qatar have to do with that? Same question. What the fuck does Israel have to do with it? This is in Israel Hayom, which is an Israeli newspaper. So that the Israelis are saying this probably gives it some credibility. Actually, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong here, because I didn't think until now about this potential angle, but it might be that UEFA is more independently, like the associations that are a part of UEFA are more independently taking the initiative here. And Israeli media is trying to use Qatari lobbying as an out to be like, this wasn't organic. It wasn't that the Europeans kicked us out. It was that they were manipulated by the elders of Doha, the protocols of the elders of Doha. Israel and Zionists are talking about Qatar in the vein of like an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. It has its tendrils everywhere, influencing everything, that sort of thing. So that's another angle of what potentially might be happening here. It might not even be the Qataris at all, because honestly, it might be giving them too much credit. They are disgusting normalizers. They're not on the level of like the UAE. They're better than the Saudis in those terms, aside from also having slaves. But, this is more than what I would expect from them, okay? So that angle might be true, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens this week. So it was reported in Israel Hayom that in Israeli football and sports circles, there is growing concern that on Tuesday, which is 2 days from the time of filming this video might have already been debunked by reality by the time you watch this. UEFA will deliver the dreaded decision that many feared: Israel's suspension from European competitions until further notice. Israel Hayom has learned that Qatar is exerting heavy pressure to bring the vote on Israel's expulsion to the UEFA Executive Committee meeting on Tuesday. Over the past week, intense lobbying efforts have been underway to secure a majority in favor of expulsion. At present, among the 20 voting members, a sweeping majority reportedly supports Israel's removal. That seems very unlikely to me, but I'll take their word for it. Why not? I need some hope. With only 2 or 3 countries firmly opposed. The Israel Football Association is leading on both sporting and diplomatic allies in a desperate bid to prevent the matter from reaching the agenda. So according to this, Israel seems to think that the only way out for them is to not allow a vote. Because if a vote goes through, they think they're getting kicked out, which I sure fucking hope happens. And by the way, I saw this this might be indicative of a broader sentiment in UEFA against Israel, because UEFA, during the Super Cup, they had a banner out that said, "Stop killing children, stop killing civilians," which the Israelis immediately correctly interpreted, because they know that they're the ones who kill children and civilians, as an anti-Israel banner. It's obvious that this was them trying to call out Israel without specifically naming Israel. So yeah, definitely UEFA seems to be more anti-Israel than FIFA, which is weird, because FIFA is definitely way more lobbied by the Qataris. Israeli officials understand that if the matter does go to a vote, Israel's participation in European football will be over, at least for the foreseeable future. Good! What a complete joke that Israel plays in fucking Europe, the European stuff. Israel shouldn't play in any sport, in anything. It should be like a South Africa situation, exclude them from everything. Boycott 100%. A senior official in the Israeli Football Association told Israel Hayom, "We are working on this on every front. The matter is being handled. No one at the association is asleep at the wheel." The 2 small countries with massive disproportionate lobbying wings seem to be going against one another. I hope Qatar wins. They are by far the lesser evil in this case, and I hope this is true. I really hope that Qatar is using their lobbying apparatus against Israel, though I don't really have much faith in it. I think, as I said, this might just be nothing. It might just be a false alarm. It's going to be either that. That's the most likely. I said it's like 80% chance. Or if this does happen, I say there's like a 15% chance that it's just the Europeans themselves, independently, being sick of Israel's shit and voting to get them out. And maybe like a 5% chance that Qatar actually did have a hand in this, at least a decisive hand. I don't think the Qatari lobbying is powerful enough to be able to push UEFA like decisively into excluding Israel. I don't think that they have that power at all. We're not talking about the Israel lobby here. We're talking about the Qatari lobby. It's not that powerful. So I think, as I said, this is just Israeli media trying to make an excuse for this happening in advance, or at least potentially if it happens. Aside from just, you massacre fucking babies, you fucking psychos. That's why they're excluding you, which would be the most logical reason. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Knock on wood. Hopefully it goes according to plan. According to what the elders of Doha dictate. I always abide by their protocols and I always will. That's not how you salute, but I don't care. Leave me alone.